It's no secret. Drinking too much alcohol has a destructive impact on our emotional and mental well-being. It's a subject that affects many lives, often silently. It's like that elephant in the room we don't want to talk about, especially when we are the ones over drinking on the regular. Hello and welcome back. I'm Jess, and as always, I want to approach today's topic with understanding because, well, I've been there. I've been deep in the struggles that we're going to talk about today. So I encourage you to have an open mind and a soft heart as we explore this topic with awareness and compassion. Do you remember the days when we first started drinking alcohol, when it was just a way to have fun? Our mood was uplifted, all that social anxiety faded away, and we were just partying. But as drinking continues over the years, we quickly learn that these fun feelings only last to a point, and then the reality of using alcohol sets in. Some people see alcohol for what it is, and it loses its appeal, but for others of us, it's like a switch was activated, and we want to chase that feeling again and again, despite all the negative effects. I'm not just talking about being hungover. After long-term use, we may find that our emotional life is in complete turmoil. We are irritable, we're depressed, and we use alcohol as the cure. And if we're not careful, we may find ourselves on a roller coaster that never ends. We want to get off that roller coaster desperately, but for some reason, we can't. Most of us who have used or currently use alcohol to self-medicate are doing so to alleviate underlying emotional and mental struggles. It could be a condition such as chronic depression or anxiety, things that remain unaddressed and untreated. And excessive alcohol exacerbates these problems and makes them really hard to address and treat. And even if the issue doesn't require professional help, with alcohol in the way, it's hard for us to help ourselves and get the support that we need. It's not uncommon to first get help to quit drinking, and that clears the way to address the underlying emotions. Excessive drinking has a major impact on the cognitive functions of our brains. Our memory is affected, our ability to make sound decisions, and our ability to concentrate even on the most basic things. If we have obligations in life, whether we have to go to work or we have a family to take care of, there could very well be a decline in our ability to fulfill those responsibilities. We may not have the awareness to notice ourselves right away, but I can assure you that other people are noticing, even if they don't suspect the exact cause. Just completing regular daily tasks becomes overwhelming. I remember doing basic errands around town and going to work, causing so much anxiety that all I could think about was coming home to the bottle. This is a prime example of how heavy alcohol use changes our brain chemistry. I remember this feeling all too well. Now, there's a few paradoxes when it comes to substance use, and this is one of them. Most of us who drink a lot have a certain level of anxiety that we're trying to reduce, and alcohol seems like the perfect cure in the moment. But just as I mentioned, brain chemistry is severely disrupted, and the opposite effect takes place. Anxiety skyrockets as soon as this alcohol wears off. Alcohol may seem like it's your trusty friend, but in the end, all of its promises are lies. I was a heavy drinker for several years. For me, that led to social isolation. I was drinking at home most of the time. My entire life revolved around whether or not I would be able to drink. Now, as long as I stayed home, I would be able to. This made it really hard to go on vacations or see family or have a social life. It was basically like my secret excuse for everything, to get out of everything. For years, I missed out on a full life, and I avoided my friends and my family. Not to mention, I quit participating in activities that I truly loved. For many years, I loved to ride and race mountain bikes. Ever since I was in my 20s, eventually, the bottle became more important than that. Passion for this and other things just disappeared as I isolated from everyone and everything. And this isolation exacerbates a very deep sense of shame and loneliness. Relationships are deeply affected when we habitually overdrink because we become so self-absorbed in our own need to check out that we have become blinded to how our behavior is affecting others. We don't want to be confronted by others about our behavior, and since we're fighting ourselves inwardly, it manifests with fighting everyone else outwardly. If drinking has a strong hold on our life, this cycle of conflict is just going to continue, and it can push us further into isolation, away from those who love and care about us. And sadly, there is a deep shame associated with this habit, and we unconsciously think that if we disconnect from everyone, we can go into our little hole of despair and not have to deal with reality. If this is you, I've been there. Please don't give up. Shame characterizes pretty much all addictions. It's like a mental veil that distorts reality. We often know our predicament, even though we may not acknowledge it out loud. We feel shame that we can't seem to pull ourselves together and deal with life like a normal person. We see how we've hurt ourselves and maybe even others, and it's just too much to deal with. It alters our self-image and how we interact with life. And there's another strange paradox, and that while having a low self-worth and at the same time being completely obsessed and fixated on ourselves. Our whole inner world can be defined by this attachment to these feelings and ideas that we have about ourselves. And we can't seem to see things any other way until suddenly we do. This is what I mean about not giving up. Physically, we are affected by habitual overdrinking. We become chronically sleep deprived, dehydrated, our energy is just really low, and our inner organs are just suffering. And since our body and brains are linked, it's no surprise that when the body deteriorates, so does the mental state. When we decide to improve our mental state, obviously the body will respond. Just as when your body starts to feel better, your clarity improves as well as your overall sense of well-being. You could think of this as common sense, but you'd be amazed how many people don't pay attention to this. In my recovery, I found that spending time in nature and getting regular exercise was key in healing my brain and mental state. And even if you don't think you have an alcohol addiction issue, I would encourage you to have the self-awareness to take care of yourself in this way. If overdrinking takes over our lives, there's always hope, no matter how dark it may seem. For me, I had to decide that I wanted to live. After contemplating the other option for years, the question of living or dying was demanding an answer. Now, my mom died when she was 44 due to complications related to her alcohol use. It felt like death was at my doorstep if I continued drinking for one more day. And right before my 43rd birthday, I had my last drink. Finally, sobriety stuck. Finally. Don't give up if this is where you are. People recover in many ways. Don't be afraid to seek support. There are a lot of resources out there if you need them. It wasn't until I reached out for support in person that I was able to quit. There was something about talking face to face with others who could totally relate to me and have zero judgment. When alcohol is out of the picture, you can rediscover your true self with a clear mind, and you can focus on recovery. Now, as I wrap this up, I want to address the issue of relapse. When we are actively seeking to quit alcohol, relapse is just part of recovery for most people. I know it's really disheartening because it feels like failure, but it's actually quite common. And each time you're getting closer to surrender. You hear a lot about surrender in recovery circles. It's another strange paradox. You see, the more we fight and resist anything, the stronger the thing is that we are resisting. Don't give up. So in closing, you may or may not have a problematic relationship with alcohol. I hope you don't. But if you do, I'm glad you're here. Maybe someone you care about is struggling. Having an understanding about what is going on is important, and it helps to approach the issue with compassion. Everyone's pain is experienced and dealt with differently. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you found this video useful. I'll see you next time.